What is your favorite fairy tale?
Hey guys, what's up? MurderofBirds here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first RWBY news and information video of 2020, where we've got some breaking news on a yet to be announced addition to the RWBY universe that I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be really excited about. So if you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends and other fans within the community so everyone can be up to date and everyone can be hyped and excited on what we're going to potentially be getting later this year. So this just in, we got some news that's coming to us by way of a preview from the digital publications platform by Apple known as Apple Books. It outlines information and details on a brand new illustrated collection of short stories in partnership with Scholastics that take place within the world of RWBY known as Fairy Tales of Remnant, and it is also credited by E.C. Myers with an expected release date of September 15th, 2020. Now at the time of this recording, Rooster Teeth hasn't made an official announcement regarding this information. However, taking the author and release date into consideration, we can easily deduce the likelihood of this actually coming to fruition later this year. So for the uninitiated, E.C. Myers is a name that most people in the RWBY community are probably aware of, or at the very least, it is a name that most people in the community should be aware of because he's the author of the first novel of the series, RWBY After the Fall, a story that focuses on Team Coffee 1 year after the fall of Beacon that also released during the summer of 2019.
Hey gang, we're making a new young adult book series, and the title is RWBY After the Fall, and it focuses on Team Coffee.
That's what I was hoping you'd say, so I'm glad.
E.C. Myers is also credited for the upcoming sequel to that novel being Book 2, RWBY Before the Dawn, which was originally announced at RTX Austin 2019 and is scheduled to release on January 21st, 2020.
Guess what? We got another book coming.
It's Neptune!
Yeah.
I miss him.
Your mom will be so happy. My mom is so happy. And just another exciting thing about this, it's going to be releasing in July of 2020. Boom. Not that far from now. It seems like it's far, it's not.
So it seems very likely that Eugene is back hard at work, working in partnership with Scholastics as well as the writers of RWBY, Miles, Eddie, and now Kiersey and Eddie, to deliver more world building of Remnant and offering new insight to the series in a way that we fans can enjoy and appreciate, especially because he added so much lore, so much world building on the aspects of, RWBY After the Fall, which takes place in Vacua, which in the show we haven't seen yet. So we got a first insight of the kingdom, some of the semblances and huntsmen and huntresses, as well as creatures, both grim and non-grim creatures that are still pretty deadly, that first made their debut in the novel. So the fact that we're now getting some fairy tale aspects and world building in that regard is something that I'm really happy to see that Eugene is dabbling back into for the RWBY community, being a big part of the contributions of the lore and, basically just giving us a different form of media beyond just the show to kind of get us hyped and excited for the series. Now, looking at the release date, this is an interesting one because the series of short stories is expected to release on September 15th, 2020. Now, I believe that this release date is accurate because, as I mentioned before, both novels were officially announced by Rooster Teeth during RTX Austin, which is Rooster Teeth's own personal convention that they hold every summer, particularly in June of every year. And seeing as how the date is before New York Comic Con, which is where Rooster Teeth also reveals news and information regarding the RWBY series, it's very likely that Rooster Teeth will give the official announcement of this collection of short stories of the fairy tales at RTX Austin this year in 2020, which is going to be in July as well, and they're most likely going to be released in September. But moving on from the credits and the potential release date, here is what I feel like most of you guys are going to be really excited about. Here is a description of what fans can expect from this new media. The publisher description reads, "Fans of Rooster Teeth's hit animated series RWBY will want to pore over every page of this gorgeously illustrated collection of 12 short fairy tales. I repeat, 12 short fairy tales. In addition to classic tales from the show such as The Story of the Seasons and The Tale of the Two Brothers, readers will immerse themselves in 8 never-before-told stories from the RWBY writers. Vibrant artwork throughout completes the collection, offering new insight into the strange, beautiful, and dangerous world of Remnant. This deluxe version also happens to be the personal copy of Professor Ozpin, complete with a foreword from the former Beacon headmaster himself. Fans won't want to miss this must-have collection, sure to reveal more secrets about RWBY and the stunning world of the show. The collection is also outlined to be a young adult genre in English across 96 pages and published by Scholastics." So that right there, that's a lot to unpack. right? And as fans of the series, I'm sure there's an overwhelming amount of expectations for this collection, both for details that we already know as fans, but more importantly, information yet to be told. You know, the story and the fairy tales in RWBY are stories passed down through the history of Remnant, and although generally regarded as myth and legend, some of the stories that we've been told have turned out to be true and have had a great impact and a great influence on the world of Remnant so far.
What is your favorite fairy tale?
I'm sorry.
Fairy tales. Stories from your childhood. Surely you must remember some of them.
Well, there's the tale of the two brothers.
They were brothers. The older sibling, the god of light, found joy in creating forces of life. Meanwhile, the younger brother, the god of darkness, spent his time creating forces of destruction.
The shallow sea, the girl in the tower.
There stood a lonely tower that sheltered a lonely girl. Named Salem.
What about the story of the seasons?
Oh, of course. Winter, spring, summer, and fall. The four maidens. My mother loves that story.
Would you believe me if I told you that one's been around since I was a boy?
You're not that old, Professor.
Well, would you believe me if I told you it was true?
Now, I don't know about any of you guys, but being a big Harry Potter fan myself, I feel like Rooster Teeth is taking a page out of Harry Potter, no pun intended, because this reminds me of the Harry Potter library set, specifically The Tale of Beedle the Bard, which had notes and stories that were from the personal copy of Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. They had little footnotes and like little comments referring to the stories and the notes that were taken from that, and I feel like that's the equivalent of what we're going to get from Professor Ozpin, considering that this is his personal copy that's basically being transcribed and transferred to the real world for all of us fans. But regardless of that parallel, in addition to the stories that we've known so far, the tale of the two brothers, the girl in the tower, the four maidens, and information regarding the Silver-Eyed Warriors, I'm honestly just ecstatic to know that we're going to be given 8 never before told fairy tales that all have, I feel like they're all going to have the fundamental potential to change the landscape of the series based on the impact or based on the truthfulness of their origins. Like, remember back during volume 3, remember during volume 4, remember during volume 7, right? The plot drop of the maidens, the plot drop of the tale of the two brothers, the plot drop of Salem and Ozma's origin backstory, you know, the reveal of more information from the Silver Eyes, from Maria to RWBY, you know, all of those main story points and beats really kind of changed the landscape of the plot, of the world building, of the lore that the fans were able to kind of understand, digest, and apply moving forward. And the fact, just imagine that. Just imagine 8 stories that have the potential to be on the same scale of the Four Maidens, or, you know, Salem and Ozma's backstory, or the tale of the two brothers. I feel like that's going to be absolutely insane if done right, or if done in the expectations that I'm expecting, because all of these fairy tales have been so in line with each other. But you know, it's been few and far between since we've gotten them, and the ones that we have gotten have been massive to, you know, things regarding the maidens and the relics and the gods and things of that nature. The description also did mention that this edition happens to be the personal copy of Ozpin's, like I mentioned earlier, and given the fact that Ozpin's existence predates these fairy tales, and in some cases these fairy tales are a direct result of his influence, I think it'd be great if Ozpin gave those little notes and comments regarding his involvement in these fairy tales, what his personal thoughts of these fairy tales are, or where he was at any given point in his lifetime cycle to these fairy tales coming into popularity. You know, what's the significance of the shallow sea? What if we learned about one of Ozpin's past lives, or if the book that Blake was reading during volume 1 was actually an autobiography of his that he did in a previous life?
Your book, does it have a name?
Well, it's about a man with 2 souls, each fighting for control over his body.
I'm sorry.
What?
What if Ozpin has personal insight to Silver Eyed Warriors, you know, as he was once paired with someone who not only had children with Silver Eyes, but he also worked closely with Summer Rose and now RWBY, both whom have had the, you know, the rare trait that Ozpin clearly knew about.
The night you met Ozpin, what was the first thing he said to you?
I don't know. I think it was something about
Silver Eyes. That's an extremely rare trait.
So?
You're special, RWBY. And not in the daddy loves his special angel kind of way. You're special the same way your mom was.
What if, in a weird and crazy but funny way, the Ninjas of Love book had more nuance and history to it than simply being a love story novel that Blake enjoyed reading? The possibilities, I feel like, are ultimately endless, and from everything that we still yet don't understand about the show and its lore, like the relics, the Faunus' origins, beings like Jinn, other locations across the world, including Vacuo, and even ancient creatures beyond the Grim, I feel like it's very easy to become caught up in the possibilities of what's going to be expanded on, and how these new fairy tales could be based on some form of truth that may even become relevant down the road in the show's future. But ultimately, I think this is like a big win for us as fans, you know. For the most part, we've been getting a lot of great novels that have added a lot of the world building and character returns, like Team Coffee and Team Sun, both in the After the Fall and the soon-to-be Before the Dawn novels. The official RWBY companion gave a lot of kind of official in-depth information about the concept of the show, its upbringings, and everything that we know so far in terms of hard facts. But I think the addition of 8 never-before-heard fairy tales in the context of how we've been getting fairy tales in this show and what fairy tales mean in this show and impact that they have on the world and the people and the history of Remnant, I think that this is going to be like massive for kind of applying and understanding the world that we've known over the last 7 volumes, but also applying what we could potentially learn the further we go on into Atlas, or to other territories, or Vacuo, or the Dragon Continent, or when we officially see Salem and confront her, or even when we go back to Beacon, or learning about Team Stark, or learning about Summer Rose. I think there's so much potential to be had, and ultimately I'd love to know what you guys think. Like, what do you guys think of this in terms of the potential of the show? What do you think these fairy tale stories can give us? What do you guys think some of these fairy tales could allude to? And, you know, maybe we've seen context of it in the show, but, you know, this compilation of short stories will give us more than what we've kind of been able to apply thus far. You know, overall, we now understand and know that there are 4 maidens that exist. Salem was the girl in the tower. RWBY and Summer are evidence and support that Silver Eyes do exist. And, you know, there's just so many other things that have still yet to be answered, and I think this is a great way of doing it, especially since E.C. Myers is back on board with it, along with Scholastics and the writers of the show, now that Eddie and Kiersey are on board, and they're adding a lot of life and rejuvenation to the series, especially with Volume 7. As of right now, of course, like I said, nothing has been officially announced by Rooster Teeth. It most likely will happen around RTX Austin 2020 this summer, and that's probably when pre-orders and things of that nature will go up, but I will keep you guys informed. Oh, and here's another thing too. If anyone at Scholastics is watching this, if anyone at Rooster Teeth is watching this, I am a big fan of audiobooks. I was personally really happy to see that there was an audio format for RWBY After the Fall, which I'm still kind of getting through to put a video together for you guys on. But I loved the fact that we got an audio version of the novel, and I really hope that stays and continues on with the sequel novel, Before the Dawn. But I would love it if this collection of short stories has an audio format. Please, I implore you, I beg you, please hire Shannon McCormick, the voice actor of Ozpin, to narrate the entire book. This is, after all, a personal copy from the headmaster himself. You know, he's narrated a lot of the World of Remnants in past, and I think it would just be a delight to kind of see and have. And I think it's something that RWBY fans want, but they don't know they want it yet. So I'm going to make that forward to you guys to make that happen. I think it would be great.
Deep in the forests of Remnant, beside a great and mighty river, stood the small, fragile home of a cold, frail man. A lone wizard.
Do you hear that? That's absolutely amazing. Please, please, Scholastics, Eugene, Rooster Teeth, RWBY, make it happen, please. I swear we'd love it. But yeah, overall, that's everything. We are going to be getting a new collection of illustrated short stories, 8 brand new, never before heard, never before seen, never before told fairy tales within the world of Remnant that applies to the lore, the plot, the world building of the show, both for what we do know and even more so what we don't know, and how it can be applied moving forward in the future. Like I said, this is breaking news. This is something that happened only a few hours ago, and I kind of want to let you guys know and be up to speed on that, and keep your eyes peeled, especially for information later this year during RTX to see you know, what more we can get out of it. But ultimately, I think this is great. I think this is something that a lot of fans are really going to love and enjoy, especially if you're a big fan of the companion books, the manga, you know, the first novel, if you're excited for the second one. I think this is something, again, that a lot of people are going to enjoy, myself included. I'm definitely going to be looking into it and, you know, definitely talking about it on the channel once it comes out. But ultimately, I'd love to know what you guys think. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments, what you guys think some of these fairy tales are. Do you think it's going to be on anything that we already know, like the relics, or like people, you know, beings like Jinn? I think that'd be really exciting and interesting. Or you know, what any type of theories or headcanons would you guys like to see come out of this? But ultimately, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.